Many thanks for joining us. You're watching QTV News with me, Ansumana Esonyasi. Coming up this evening, the Gambia's medicines regulatory body approves the use of 2 vaccines for use in the Gambia. The chairman of the National Human Rights Commission has said that the government has been very responsive to the Commission's demands and has not interfered in their work. Witnesses have appeared at the TRRC to give accounts of what happened to the West African migrants who were killed in Gambia in 2005. The Gambia Press Union holds election reporting and monitoring training for media editors. In international news, EU leaders are meeting for a virtual summit on Thursday to discuss ways to speed up the bloc's vaccine rollout and are mulling the introduction of vaccine travel certificates, so-called vaccine passports. Stories about what has happened to 2 daughters of Dubai's ruler are being played out on a daily basis in the British media. And in sports, we look ahead to an exciting round of matches in the AFCON Under-20 Championship, including Gambia's Friday clash with the Central African Republic. But for more on these and other stories coming up, do stay tuned. And now we take a look at the news in detail. The Gambia's Medicines Control Agency has earlier this week given its approval to the Oxford, AstraZeneca and Covishield vaccines. In an interview with QTV's Mohamed Lamin Choi, the Medicines Control and Regulatory Body's Executive Director has assured Gambians that the vaccines have gone through the right regulatory process for approval and that they are safe and efficacious for use.
This development comes at a time when our country, like many others, is anxiously waiting the arrival of the first batch of its COVAX vaccine supply through the WHO-led Vaccine Alliance, Gavi. The Gambia's Medicines Control Agency, the legally mandated medicines regulatory body, has given approval to the AstraZeneca Oxford vaccine and Covishield after assessment of the safety and efficacy for rollout to the population.
We want to assure the general public that the vaccines that are being used by the Ministry of Health and Social Welfare for any public health program and vaccination programs that will probably soon be coming up have gone through the right regulatory process through WHO and also evaluated, and we are happy that the vaccines are safe for use in the population.
The approval process is based on the WHO's requirement on effectiveness and efficacy of the vaccines and further evaluations by the Medicines Control Agency before rollout. This has been done for the AstraZeneca Oxford vaccine and Covishield. The Covishield vaccine was developed by the British-Swedish pharma giant AstraZeneca and Oxford University, and it is being manufactured by the Serum Institute of India.
All these vaccines have to come through Medicines Control Agency for review and approval for emergency use. This is to give the public assurance that definitely these products, these vaccines, have gone through the right regulatory process, either from WHO or from similar, high-profile, mature, stringent, what they call stringent regulatory authorities. They have been given approval to show that these medicines, these vaccines are safe. They have been, evaluated to show their safety and their quality for use in the population.
A regulatory process for vaccine approval that is usually a lengthy process has been expedited, as have been the case in the COVID-19 vaccines process across the world. This is part of fulfilling the WHO guidelines and requirement for COVAX facility participants to give national regulatory authorization for the vaccines ahead of the planned distributions. After approval of vaccines, follows distributions, rollout, during which monitoring of the effectiveness and efficacy of the vaccines can begin.
All vaccines that we're using for public health programs have been manufactured outside, and they go through, again, this process of WHO pre-qualification. They come to the national regulatory agencies. They also assess it, they approve it, and they use it in public health programs. The next thing we can do is to make sure that we monitor that when we're giving it also in the population, which is a follow-up thing that every regulatory agency and the ministry are doing, is to make sure that we follow up to show that it is given and it is safe. So we continue to monitor the safety profile of this vaccine.
The fight of the global pandemic is moving progressively alongside with misinformation surrounding the COVID-19 vaccines, thereby posing a serious threat to public health measures that are being implemented around the world. Health authorities, including the Medicines Control Agency, want the public to trust and rely on the experts for a meaningful battle against the coronavirus pandemic. Mahmoud Lamin Choi, Qtv News.
The chairman of the National Human Rights Commission has said that the government has been very responsive to the Commission's demands. He made these remarks at a press conference organized by the Commission to update the media on their work, challenges and progress.
The National Human Rights Commission's press conference updated the press on the Commission's successes, challenges in 2020 and the way forward for 2021. In 2017, the Gambia established its first ever National Human Rights Commission with a mandate to promote and protect human rights. The Human Rights Commission investigates violation of any human right at its own initiative or on a complaint made by any person or a group of persons. According to Emmanuel Donald Juve, the Commission's chairman, in 2020, they received 77 individual complaints. However, only 16 were admissible. 16 are pending and 45 were deemed inadmissible due to the nature of the complaints and the Commission's remit. As with every organization, the Commission could justifiably coronavirus as a major setback. However, they have registered relevant achievements in 2020. Emmanuel Daniel Juve went on to outline some of these.
In the area of monitoring, we have constantly monitor the prisons and detention facilities in the country, ensure that they're in compliance with human rights standards and that inmates are treated humanely. So we have in December we had a comprehensive monitoring missions, Mile 2, Joshuang and Janjambure prisons, and also other selected stations right across the country. But also, I think our vice chair and the deputy executives, they have actually spearheaded visits and assessment missions and visits, monitoring to places like Tanka Psychiatric Hospital. Together with CSOs, we have been able to do those visits. So these are some of the things we have actually done.
The chairman of the Human Rights Commission confidently informed journalists that the Commission doesn't suffer interference from the government.
As I can honestly say, we have had no intervention whatsoever from the government, the way we do our work. One may hear that they may not be happy about one or two statements that have been made, especially in the area of press releases, but they have not officially told us that they are not happy with our work, or neither have they tried to do anything since then.
The challenges of the Commission includes finance, which is generally a major challenge for most institutions. The Commission has plans to decentralize their work as human rights violations occur everywhere, and Emmanuel Daniel Juve details how they expect this to be done.
One of the things, the priority areas we want to do is have a regional presence. We cannot have human rights from our secretariat. Although, as I said, we do have missions out. We send our investigators out there. But it is about time that we start having a regional presence, at least in one region, as we then escalate it into other regions. So this is a priority for 2021 moving forward.
The Commission also formulates guidelines, policies and standard operating measures to guide and ensure that the state institutions, including law enforcement, uphold human rights standards that are consistent with the rule of law and justice. The Commission has developed a 5-year strategic plan to direct its work. Reporting for QTV News, I am Jenna Bosonko.
The third witness to appear before the Truth Commission on Wednesday said his role in the arrest of West African migrants in 2005 was Usman Jallo, an NIA officer who told the Commission that the government was fully aware that the arrested migrants were not mercenaries as claimed by the government. Babkarsi tells us more.
Usman Jallo, an NIA officer, told the TRRC that he was the officer commanding at the time when he received a call after work from his boss Ngor Seka, informing him that mercenaries or rebels had been intercepted in Bara and asked to go with Navy personnel to go and collect them. When he arrived at Bara police post, he asked for the leader of the crew with whom he had a discussion.
It was he who told me we were camped in Senegal. They intended to go to Europe, and that their Senegalese agent brought them in a boat and abandoned them on the coast of Bara.
Usman Jallo told the commission that the leader of the group gave him a number that he said was their contact in the Gambia, and when he dialed the number, a number he knew appeared on his phone. The witness said the agent was one Lamin Tunkara, who was arrested previously for smuggling migrants to Europe. He then said he called his boss at the NIA.
I told him these are not mercenaries. They are illegal migrants wanting to go to Europe.
The witness said he signed the police diary that he was taking the 50 migrants and transferring them to Banjul, and stressed that he would not have taken the migrants away without signing the diary. He informed the commission that among the 50 people he signed for, 2 were women from Nigeria and Sierra Leone. When they escorted the migrants to Banjul at the Marine Unit, the witness said he found the police IGP Usman Sonko and other senior security officers waiting for them. He said the migrants were transferred to Baba Job's compound, and other security forces like the paramilitary were called to come and secure the migrants. Usman Jallo told the commission that the way he saw things were working and the amount of interest attached to the migrants from the government level, he concluded that these migrants are in a big trouble and he feared the worst. He told the commission that the government of the Gambia was aware arrested migrants were not harmful and neither were they mercenaries, as he was informed at the beginning of the operation, and this he communicated to the higher authorities.
Your government, my government, our government lied to the international community about what happened.
Mansakunda fani yafo nyunkuto me alonko ya fani ala fo jamanke kuto nyari mote men jabije.
Absolutely.
He reaffirmed to the commission that any statement from the Gambia government that they have no knowledge about the facts he stated, it will be a cover-up and a lie. On the issue of the December 30th State House attack, arrest and tortures, Jallo confirmed to the commission that when they arrested the suspects, they were severely tortured and their family members were arrested and taken to the NIA. He accepted taking part in the investigations and torture of the suspects. Babu Karsi, Qtv News.
Well, from that report by Babu Karsi, we will take a first commercial break, but when we return, we take a look at some more local, international and sports news. Thanks for staying with us. The Gambia Press Union, in partnership with the CSO Coalition for Access to Information, on Thursday began training for news editors and members of civil society organizations on access to information and the electoral process. More in this report. This training, funded by the British government's Foreign Development Office, forms part of a project being implemented by the Gambia Press Union. Addressing participants from various media organizations and civil society organizations, Mohamed M.S. Bah, Vice President of the Gambia Press Union, says the training is aimed at promoting transparency and accountability in the electoral process in the Gambia, and went on to employ journalists and activists to intensify efforts in calling on MPs to enact the Access to Information Bill that is currently awaiting parliamentary scrutiny and approval.
As the 2021 elections draw closer, it is important to note that the key component of any national elections is information. Access to information to elections-related information is crucial to the integrity of electoral processes in any democracy, particularly our emerging democracy.
Chairpersons of the CSO Coalition on Access to Information and Inter-Party Committee, John Charles Njai and Halifa Salah, reminded the media of their role in providing accurate information and holding public officials accountable.
Breaking fake news is no breaking news. And if we are to fix this country, you, the members of the media, all of us that are now media practitioners, social media practitioners, we should be careful how we report. We can access information, but how we report the information is also key. Because it's not every information you receive that you must publish or broadcast as you receive it.
As media practitioners, you can only become the masters and mistresses of your craft if you understand the sources of legitimate information and move away from hearsay. What I say is not authoritative. It's just an opinion.
With the Gambia preparing for presidential elections in December this year, Rod Howe, acting executive director of the Gambia Federation for the Disabled, says this training is very timely. However, he called on journalists and activists to remind authorities, including the Electoral Commission, to remember persons with disabilities in the upcoming elections, as many of them find it difficult to vote. The Ministry of Trade, Industry, Regional Integration and Employment and stakeholders on Thursday validated its first Gambia National Regional Integration Policy and Strategy Document 2020-2025. Ajimito Drame tells us more.
The document seeks to promulgate a policy to enhance the national socio-economic development and revitalize the bilateral relations between the Gambia and other regional organizations such as the ECOWAS, AU and OIC. Dominic Mendy, the managing consultant of Emane Consulting Company Limited, explains how the Gambia will benefit from the membership of these organizations.
It will immediately bring to the Gambia, if we achieve some of the strategic objectives in that policy, is that we will have a sizable market and that we will have an assured market, not a market that will be closed because the border is closed, with impunity over and over, It will be a market which border cannot be closed. And so now, international investors or even Gambians in the diaspora who want to invest in the Gambia in sizable ways will now be confident that when they put their investments in the Gambia, they will be able to realize their objectives.
Mr. Mendy went further to say,
what it takes to do that. At this moment, no. We are a very small country, and technically we are almost landlocked. We are surrounded by Senegal, only open on one side to the sea. So really, for you to be able to attract foreign investments in significant sizes, you have to be able to assure those investors that you have a market size, so that if they make sizable investments in your economy, they will have a market into which these products or services could be sold. At the moment, we don't. We are always having problems, even for just re-export trade with our most immediate neighbor. So really, we are not in a position yet to be able to attract sizable foreign direct investments. And so those have implications for economic growth.
Sidi Keta, the Minister of Trade, says this policy will enable and strengthen the Gambia's economy as it has been affected by COVID-19.
The gradual elimination of tariffs and the disappearance of non-tariff barriers signals the opportunity for diversification and reduces excessive concentration on tradable goods, thus rendering our economies very vulnerable to shocks. Regional integration, therefore, provides a unique opportunity for the Gambia to reduce her excessive dependence on agriculture, low-cost tourism, both of which are highly vulnerable, as we have recently witnessed. If anything, the COVID-19 pandemic has taught us the importance of deepening collective strategies in the areas of health and research, as well as development, as can be seen from the examples of similar regional bodies like the EU, in order to better prepare so that we can confront these challenges as they come at the regional level. The pandemic has also revealed that we must strengthen our intra-regional trade, particularly in the light of the slower growth and high commodity prices. And currently, this is what we are experiencing. It has been found out that we as Africans do not trade among ourselves. And if we can increase the volume of our regional trade, this singular intervention will increase our development, our economies by a substantial amount.
As the Gambia is almost completely surrounded by Senegal geographically, this strategic document is significant as it could also help solve some of the border closure problems between Senegal and the Gambia. Ajibintu Drame, QTV News.
And we will now take our second commercial break, but still to come is international and sports news. Do stay with us.
From the 1st of March, we will have a fresh new look on Qtv News,
bringing you all the top news stories.
From the heart of Qtv Newsroom.
And on the ground from around the Gambia, come rain or shine.
For all the latest news, entertainment, business, sports and weather.
Stay with QTV News always.
QTV News, redefining the news.
Welcome back, and over now to international news. EU leaders are meeting for a virtual summit on Thursday to discuss ways to speed up the bloc's vaccine rollout, division over border closures, and the introduction of vaccine travel certificates, a so-called vaccine passport, as variants of the coronavirus continue to spread and vaccine rollout across the bloc remains slow.
Dealing with the unforeseen challenges caused by the COVID-19 pandemic has taken a significant toll on people all across the world, particularly America, Europe and Asia, thus prompting the European Union to meet and discuss possible solutions to tackling the pandemic. While speeding up vaccine production and delivery is the primary focus due to slowness in EU's vaccine rollout, the European Council meeting will also look at border restrictions and COVID-19 certificates. Manfred Weber, the head of the Conservative bloc in the European Parliament, has called for a speedy rollout of a vaccine passport in order to allow freedom of movement in the EU. Weber, however, defended the slow pace of Europe's vaccination drive compared to progress seen in other countries such as the United Kingdom and United States, saying their delays are due to a security-first and shared liability approach. While the UK and US are entirely liable for anything that could go wrong, both Pfizer and AstraZeneca share liability with EU countries. The EU leaders are expected to focus on both the speed of vaccines authorizations and the boosting of production rates. This could be done by creating new manufacturing facilities and cutting delivery blockages. The need to enhance surveillance and detection capacity in order to identify variants as early as possible so as to control their spread was also being discussed. On the issue of COVID-19 certificates, tourist-reliant southern European nations such as Greece and Spain are urging the rapid adoption of an EU-wide certificate for travelers to show they have been vaccinated. This idea was backed by the Austrian Chancellor Sebastian Kurz. He said it would enable a restart to free travel in Europe and could help secure and protect struggling sectors like the arts, sports and gastronomy. Greece has indicated it is ready to move faster than its EU peers. It has already reached a bilateral travel agreement with Israel, which has led the world with its vaccination campaign. Other countries such as France and Germany have shown more reluctance, with officials saying it would create de facto vaccination obligation and could prove discriminatory. Officials and diplomats warned on Wednesday that although they supported a verifiable vaccination record, it was too early to examine the use of vaccine passports to permit easier travel. However, others are supportive of the idea. Manfred Weber said a vaccination passport is crucial and immediately necessary, saying they have to speed up because currently tens of thousands of Europeans are being vaccinated every day. He went on to say that trying to sort out the paperwork retroactively could prove either difficult or impossible. He suggested issuing a document when people receive their jab. Yahya Jao, QTV News.
Still with international news, Princess Latifa, the apparently captive daughter of Dubai's ruler, has appealed to UK police to reinvestigate the kidnap of her older sister, Princess Samsa, 20 years ago from a street in Cambridge in England. LCC reports.
In a letter shared with the BBC, Latifa tells Cambridgeshire police that a reinvestigation into the matter could help free her sister, Princess Samsa, who was captured on the orders of their father, Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, the 71-year-old billionaire ruler of Dubai and Vice President of the United Arab Emirates. Princess Samsa, 39 now, was just 18 at the time of her abduction and hasn't been seen in public since. A High Court judge ruled in 2019 that Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum had abducted both daughters and held them against their will. The government of Dubai has not responded to BBC requests for comment. In the Middle East, the Sheikh is renowned for overseeing the transformation of Dubai into a top business and tourism destination. Elsewhere, he is perhaps best known for his connection to horse racing as the owner of the Godolphin stables. Princess Latifah made headlines after secret videos recorded by her in captivity were obtained and released by the BBC's Panorama program. The videos describe how she was being held hostage following a failed escape attempt in 2018. Latifah is reported to have made the videos while being held under her father's orders in Dubai in a bad villa. The princess is one of 25 children of Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, the ruler of Dubai. The UN has since asked the United Arab Emirates for proof that Latifah is alive. In August 2000, around 2 months after escaping from her father's Long Cross estate in Surrey, Samsa was possibly taken from Cambridge, flown by helicopter to France, and then by private jet back to Dubai. Latifah's handwritten letter, which was passed to the Cambridgeshire force by her friends on Wednesday, urges action for her sister by British authorities. It was written in 2019 while she was being held in solitary confinement in a jail villa. All I ask of you, writes Latifah, is to please give attention on her case because it could get her her freedom. Your help and attention on her case could free her. She adds, she has strong links to England. She really loves England. All of her fondest memories are of her time there. The letter goes on to say, she was kept incommunicado with no release date, trial or charge. She was tortured by getting her feet caned. Cambridgeshire police first launched a kidnap investigation in 2001 after Samsa made contact via an immigration lawyer. But the investigation eventually hit a dead end when officers were blocked from going to Dubai. Police reviewed the investigation in 2018, and BBC News can now reveal that one investigator acknowledged there were significant sensitivities with the case. A further review was launched after the High Court judgment was published in 2020. In a statement to BBC News, Cambridgeshire Police said it had received Latifah's letter, which will be looked at as part of the ongoing review. In 2018, the Dubai Royal Court told the BBC that Samsa was adored and cherished, but said nothing of her whereabouts. Princess Samsa had grown up partly in the UK and had been given a Western education. Samsa wasn't what you will call a princess, according to her cousin Marcus Esabri, who lived with the family in Dubai for 2 years and was close to her. She was cheeky, full of life and adventure. She wanted to make a difference for women, in the Arab world especially. She wanted to push the boundaries. This is when the problem started, Mr. Esabri said. The sex connection in the UK are deep. He is a friend of the Queen and one of the biggest private landowners in the country. Successive UK administrations have viewed the United Arab Emirates, of which Dubai is part, as a key strategic and business ally in the region. The media scrutiny is likely to be viewed as unwelcome in many areas of British life, as there may be fears of his extensive investments being moved elsewhere. Reporting for QTV News, I am Alu Sise.
The Biden administration is preparing to release a declassified intelligence report on Thursday that is widely expected to implicate Saudi Arabia's crown prince over the murder of Saudi journalist Jamal Khashoggi in 2018. Maudimbuj tells us more.
It is unclear how releasing the report will affect U.S.-Saudi relations, but one thing is certain: it will mark a new chapter in the relations, and a clear break from former President Trump's equivocation on the culpability of Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman in the gruesome murder of Jamal Khashoggi on 2 October 2018 at the Saudi consulate in Istanbul, Turkey. The murder was widely condemned across the world. The Saudis, having first denied the murder, changed course and blamed rogue security agents for the murder. The Crown Prince insisted strongly that he did not have any knowledge of the murder. Much of the international community, however, took his protestation of innocence with a pinch of salt, and a CIA intelligence assessment of the murder, concluded in November 2018 and seen by major news organizations, vindicated the skepticism. The Crown Prince was directly linked to the killing of Jamal Khashoggi, contradicting the assertion that he was not involved. And incidentally, a UN investigation published in 2019 also concluded that Jamal Khashoggi was the victim of a premeditated extrajudicial execution for which the state of Saudi Arabia is responsible. The Trump administration refused to release a declassified version of the CIA report, as was legally required. Biden's decision to make it public does not only fulfill a legal requirement, it also reflects Biden's policy to realign ties with Saudi Arabia and take a much tougher stance than his predecessor, according to analysts. During the 2020 election campaign, Biden had promised to, and I quote, make the Saudis pay the price and make them, in fact, the pariah that they are, end of quote. The new administration has already made some major policy changes in that regard, with President Biden ending U.S. support for offensive operations by the Saudi-led coalition fighting in Yemen and freezing arms sales to the kingdom. White House spokeswoman Jen Psaki said on Wednesday that Mr. Biden would communicate with King Salman and not directly with the Crown Prince. A prominent critic of the Saudi Crown Prince, Jamal Khashoggi, was a 59-year-old Saudi journalist working as a Washington Post columnist when he was lowered to the Saudi consulate in Istanbul and killed by a team of Saudi intelligence operatives. His body was dismembered and the remains have never been found. According to many analysts, the assassination of Khashoggi sparked a foreign policy crisis for the White House and raised questions about the administration's reliance on Saudi Arabia as a key ally in the Middle East and bulwark against Iran. Trump chose to stand by the Crown Prince, resisting to pin the blame for the killing on him, and continued a close relationship with Saudi Arabia and with the prince in particular. Trump reportedly bragged in 2019 that he had protected bin Salman from congressional scrutiny in recorded interviews with journalist Bob Woodward. This was widely seen as a striking example of Donald Trump's blanket disregard for democratic politics and human rights in other countries, departing from decades of American foreign policy interest in political rights and government accountability in other countries. In Biden's first foreign policy speech as president, he signaled that the U.S. would no longer be an unquestioning ally to the Gulf monarchies. How that would play out remains to be seen. But such political piety has often taken a back seat to considerations of geopolitical power or resources. For QTV News, I am Mamadou Mbouch.
And in sports news, the Under-20 Africa Cup of Nations has reached the quarterfinal stages, with some mouth-watering ties to be played on Thursday and Friday. Well, 8 teams will battle it out for a place in the semi-finals. Our sports reporter Modu Gajaga brings us a preview of the ties.
Pre-tournament favourites Cameroon faced off against Ghana in Thursday afternoon's kickoff. The Young Lions reached the quarterfinals as the only team with a 100% record in the tournament, winning all 3 of their group matches. Ghana will fancy their chances despite a disappointing result against Gambia, losing 2-1 in their final group game, after an impressive performance in an opener with Tanzania, thumping them 4-0. In Tuesday's second quarterfinal, an impressive Uganda against a resilient Burkina Faso side. The East Africans finished second behind Cameroon in Group A after defeating Mozambique before eliminating host Mauritania in the process. The latter needed a win to advance to the next stage of the tournament. Burkina Faso finished top of Group B with 2 wins and a draw, defeating Central African Republic and Namibia following a draw with Tunisia. On Friday, North African football rivalry between Tunisia and Morocco will be renewed. Former winners Morocco will go into the contest with a sense of belief as they came on top in a group which had Ghana. The young Atlas Lions' emphatic 3-0 win against Tanzania preceded a draw with the Black Satellites after a lucky 1-0 win against Gambia. Tunisia made it to the last 8 as one of the 2 best third-place finishers. 2 of the tournament's most-improved sides wrap up Friday's ties as Gambia take on the Central African Republic in the late evening kickoff. The young Scorpions shocked Ghana in their final group game on Monday, coming from behind to win 2-1 to finish second in Group C, behind Morocco. Central African Republic in a similar fashion caught Tunisia with a surprise 2-1 win to finish second in Group B behind Burkina Faso. Tournament host Mauritania have provided the beautiful facilities for a showpiece Africa Youth Tournament, which has so far lived up to expectations. Based on what has gone down so far, the quarterfinal matches are expected to produce spectacular performances. Mamadou Gajaga, QTV News.
Well, we're wishing the Gambia's Under-20 team all the best as they prepare for a very important game tomorrow. Well, I'm afraid that's all we have for you in this edition of the news. But before we take a leave of you, here's a recap for main headlines. The Gambia's medicine regulatory body has approved the use of 2 vaccines for use in the Gambia. The chairman of the National Human Rights Commission has said that the government has been very responsive to the Commission's demands and has not interfered in their work. Witnesses have appeared at the TRRC to give accounts of what happened to the West African migrants who were killed in Gambia in 2005. The Gambia Press Union has organized election reporting and monitoring training for media editors. In international news, EU leaders are meeting for a virtual summit on Thursday to discuss ways to speed up the bloc's vaccine rollout and are mulling the introduction of vaccine travel certificates, so-called vaccine passports. Stories about what has happened to 2 daughters of Dubai's rulers are being played out on a daily basis in the British media. We looked into the stories. And in sports, we looked ahead to an exciting round of matches in the AFCON Under-20 Championship, including Gambia's Friday clash with the Central African Republic. Well, that's all about it, but do join us at 10 p.m. for another bulletin. Bye for now.
With Aliou Cisse and Sidi Cisse. Join us for a deeper look at Gambian politics, state of affairs,